Hi everyone, Shelly here. I am so excited today. We are going to go to Johnstown, Ohio, to the Lazy J Company. I visited her in, I think it was around November, early December, right before Christmas. She had an open house, and I absolutely fell in love with what she does and what she could offer. And one of those offerings was a workshop. So I thought, what a great way to celebrate with my friends. So Christmas came and went, and they opened their gifts, and voila, it was a workshop. And finally, here we are at the end of March, and we are going to go to this workshop, but we wanted to wait till the weather was better, because here in Ohio, you cannot guess the weather in January, February, and March. So we waited till the late March. Today is a cold, rainy day, but at least it's not ice and snow. And we're going to go and sew Tamarack jackets. Now, I already have a couple videos up on a Tamarack jacket. In fact, I'm wearing one today that I made. We're going to make a gray one together, and they are going to bring their quilted fabrics and make it, and we're going to sew along in a party fashion, and I hope you enjoy the ride. Come along with me. We are here, and this is her sign. Just beyond these doors, we will have so much fun. But please stay till the end, because I have a special little treat for you that you won't want to miss.
Hi, I'm Tira. I own Lazy J Quilting. I'm a long arm quilter, and I teach classes out of my studio here located in Johnstown, Ohio. I've had my business since 2018, and we just opened up a studio about a year ago where people can come in, they can rent the space for their own day retreats, or they can come take classes. Periodically, I host open sews where you can come and meet some new quilty friends.
Hi, Dottie.
Hi, Shelly.
Tell me how you know me.
We've been friends for like ever. 45 years, we'll say.
45
Give or take a few.
But that's going to end today. Is that what you're thinking?
Right.
Are you upset with me that I gave you this Christmas gift?
No, just a little anxious because I haven't made any clothing before. I mean, I did like in high school, we made like a shirt together.
Right.
And that was the only clothing I've made.
Well,
So
that's
just
not true. You make baby stuff.
Well, not like clothing. So, yeah.
So this is a big adventure for her.
Yes.
And this is her material that she picked. It's going to be a gorgeous jacket. And it's the Tamarack pattern. And she brought her sewing machine and all her goods.
If we do the welt, you probably won't get your jacket finished.
So thanks for sewing with me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So you're gonna make the pattern piece then.
Okay.
So let me grab you some paper.
So just make sure on this, I cut this out.
So I'm not gonna use these pattern pieces. I'm gonna put these away. Okay, good.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, Shelly. Have my hair since I got out of the shower this morning.
Tell me how you know me.
I know you through your husband, who I worked with for many years.
Yep. And now you're my groupie.
That's right. And I'm also part of your purse sewing team, teddy bear sewing team, whatever you need me to do sewing team.
That's right. Yep. We've become sewing buddies.
That's right.
And show me, this was a draft that you did, you said? Your first one?
This is the material I chose for my first ever Tamarack jacket.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. And this is the trim I'm going to use.
Lovely.
And then when I'm confident that I can do this again all by myself, then I have a different pattern at home. I mean, a different set of material at home.
Yep. And you'll have to show us when you do that one too.
Okay.
And I'll make sure I put it on the video.
All right. Thank you.
So in full transparency, I did do some homework before I ever went to this workshop because I wanted to make sure I had enough time to help my friends in their sewing projects as well. So back home, I gathered up my fabric here, which originally came from Hobby Lobby at the half-off sale days, because I never buy anything full price if you know me. And then I already made a jacket out of it, as I said, and gifted it to a friend. So take a look at that video because it turned out gorgeous. But in this video, I am going to use this beautiful Tula Pink Fairy Flakes Jelly Roll. And for those of you not familiar with the Tamarack jacket pattern, I inserted it here for you. For this jacket, I wanted to use the original binding. So I matched up both corners of the quilt and pinned them together. Next, I got out my pattern pieces and I laid it on the quilt and started cutting. Right here, I'm cutting my both pieces together, my right side and my left side. See how I went straight down? Instead of curving, I went straight down, and then I put a pin in the shoulder seam to show that that's the front sleeve area. Next, I folded the quilt in half and I pinned it so that I had an exact center of the print, and then I put my back pattern piece along that folded line. Then I'm going to pin it in place and get ready to cut it out. Notice as I'm cutting the bottom of the back pattern piece, I cut straight up. This is so that I can use the bottom binding, and here I'm pinning the back shoulder area. I keep calling it shoulder, but it's really sleeve, the back sleeve area with double pins. Now it's time to cut out the sleeve, and I'm cutting them both out at the same time, so this is double fabric. And I'm marking with safety pins once again, the front with a single pin, the back with the double pin, and the center. Now it's time to embellish. I got out my jelly roll strips and I put them in order as I wanted to sew them. And then I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance and sewed each strip together. After I sewed them all together, I ironed my seams open. Next, I cut them again in 2.5 inch strips. Back at the sewing machine, I put the strips back together and sewed them with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, ensuring that I matched up my seams, and I put a pin in each seam and then sewed it on the sewing machine. But as I went along, I realized that if I just pinned the first one together, the other seams matched up beautifully. So at first I pinned all of the seams and then slowly just did the first few, and that was it, and it went real quick. This time I ironed my seams in one direction. I made daisy petals out of paper and just cut them up and free-handed them and laid them on top of this fabric. And then with a heat erasable ink pen, I used the pattern and traced it onto the fabric. And then I cut them out, and look how beautiful they turned out. And once I cut them all out, I laid them in this design, and this is how I'm going to lay them on top of the back pattern piece here. Once I decided where I wanted them, I safety pinned them on, and now I'm going to stitch around each petal. With a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I sewed around each of the petals. Now the goal here is not to sew the edges completely, because I want to be able to fray the edges. So here in a bit I'll show you how I snip the edges, or when I wash the outfit, it'll get a nice, beautiful frayed look to it. Now that they're sewn into place, I take a small pair of scissors and I snip right up to the edge of the sewn line. So I get the fabric in my hand, I put my hand underneath, and then with my scissors, I just slowly trim around those edges. And I want to make sure that I'm not picking up that back fabric. So my hand is underneath and I'm just slowly trimming clear up to that stitch line. About 1/8 of an inch trim. And then it'll fray. It's already starting to fray and it's looking beautiful. So now I lay my front pieces out, and my goal here is to use the binding, the original binding, so it's already on here and I don't want to disturb those edges. One thing you'll notice is that my pattern on the quilt does not line up. I couldn't fussy cut it if I'm going to use the binding, but the jacket's for me and it doesn't bother me. But if I were doing this for a customer, I would probably have not used the original binding like this, and I would have cut it out and put my own binding on it, because it would drive me crazy to send off a quilt coat that doesn't have the pattern line up in the front. But once again, it's just for me, and I think it's going to be beautiful. So here I'm showing you that even though the pattern doesn't line up, it at least is on the same diagonal, the same plane, so to speak, so it doesn't look so off. So I can live with it. Now it's time to serge all of my edges except for my collar area. And the reason I do not want to serge my collar area is that I have to loosen up the binding around the collar so that I can add additional binding to go around the collar. So here I'm sewing or serging all of the edges, and I'm leaving a long tail at the bottom of the coat because my original binding is there and I do not need to hem it. So I'm going to show you a little trick. I fold the tail in half and I put it through a darning needle. The eye of the needle is usually pretty large, and then I pull it through. And then once I pull it through, I take that needle and I put the needle inside the serged stitches, just right at the edge, like this. Oh, maybe an inch or so in. Then I pull my tail through the serged seam and I snip it off. That's enough for my homework. Let's go back to Lazy J quilting. Now that we're inside her store, I wanted to give a pan around so you could see just how beautiful her quilting place is. She's a lucky lady and does such fine work for the community. She even has a bathroom.
I'm not up late.
You must be in the
Where should I go? I'm gonna clean up some
Okay.
space for you over here. Let me get
And
my.
I can swoosh down, I'm picking up. Where did Shelly start?
I'm down here at the end.
Yeah. And then what you're gonna do is then I would connect this line to about here, and then take a look at it and see. You can adjust it further if you feel like maybe this needs to come up a little bit higher. You can look at it a little bit more. But it's really up to you.
What are you working on, Marie?
I'm gonna cut out my pockets.
Awesome.
Oh, this is plenty big.
At my workstation, I decided to sew my shoulders together, so I laid my front pieces face down on top of my back piece, right sides together, and with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, sewed my shoulder seams. And here I'm modeling it for you. And that's the front, and here is the back. It's turning out so cute. And Dottie did a little model of hers. And then Marie did a model of hers. Model it again.
hang on. I don't even know. Is it
Marie's a little bit ahead of all of us.
It's looking pretty.
Yeah.
I like your pockets.
Thank you. They came out good.
It almost, it's got, with the arms and it almost looks like a
Cape.
like a Japanese, like almost like
Yeah.
a kimono.
Yeah, a kimono. Okay.
Very
next.
pretty.
Not the same ones because this makes a weird shape, but you're gonna cut an 18-inch square. You're gonna cut along the diagonal. So you have your two bias edges here. And then you're going to put, these are two straights. Put those together, offset them 1/4 of an inch, like this. And you know that you did it right when you have these two together. You don't want to do it like this.
Okay.
So your point should be going in opposite directions. And then you're gonna sew 1/4 of an inch down here, press your seam open. And then just make sure when you go and cut your bias strips, you aren't cutting along here. That'll be the straight grain. You wanna make sure you're cutting along the diagonal edges here. And that way you'll make sure you have that little bit of stretch to get around your curves.
Okay.
And then, and you just lift it up, toss your scraps, and then you've got all of your little strips there.
Oh my goodness.
So it makes it super fast. That's how I did all the strip piecing for that knitted one. Just lined them all up and one in each slot because those were 1.5 inches, I believe. So I just went and cut where the star was at. And then also this is 1 inch here at the end. So you also have that edge you can use as well. And this one.
So you fold your fabric like you do the bias tape, like you normally would.
Yep.
And instead of cutting your strips separately, you put it under this.
Yep. And then you do it all instead of having to like slide a ruler, which I think is a little bit more accurate too, because sometimes when you slide it, you're shifting the fabric. This way you're just setting it down, you're doing it all at once. So like
Okay.
all your strips. Oh, you'll make a big long chain of them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then you don't have anything to trim.
Nope. Other than my little, well, just the little dog ears. I usually trim those off.
What kind of sewing machine is this?
This is my old Viking. This is the one that I got when I was in college.
It's amazing how long they last, huh?
Yeah.
Buy a good one and it'll last forever.
Yep. This is when they were still making them in Sweden. I don't know if they still do that anymore. They might have switched to Japan. I think my new one, maybe it was made in Japan.
Should I be cutting out a pocket or, I'm sorry, are we doing that later?
No, we'll do the patch one. If that's what you can change your mind though. Did you want something different?
So she has a fancy binding machine.
Yeah. That's what I want to
And this is the older generation of it?
It is. I've had this one for probably over 10 years at this point.
And you say they make new ones
They
now?
do. They just re-released it. This used to be like a hot commodity for a while because nobody could find them. So they were selling for a ridiculous amount on eBay.
And that is how wide?
This one's 1 inch finished because you're doing 2 inch strips. And then they do, this will be like your double fold binding. But they also have tips for just like the fold over for quilt binding. There's 1 1/8 inch. I've
I
got
think I have the hand version.
1 1/4 inch. There's 3/4 inch binding. I have a bunch of these little tips. I bought them because at the time when I got this, it was marked down and they had all little tips on clearance too. So give that a few minutes to heat up. It's got different settings too. I've used this. I needed to make some satin binding and stuff like that. I've used it for that as well. And you can control the temperature. I always put it on max. And then once this heats up, the light will turn on and then we can go from there.
And so what is your net result? 1/2 inch double fold?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I had to do the math. I was like, 1 inch yes.
Yeah, so 2 inches go in and it comes
Yep.
out 1/2 inch double
Yeah,
fold. Okay.
whatever it says on the tip, you just double. You cut your strip double, whatever that is. Got a really skinny one too.
So how much do the new ones sell for?
I feel like they're like 200 if
Okay.
I don't make enough buys to do that.
bought mine.
Do you use this method when you do your quilting?
Yep, I use it for pretty much all of my binding.
So do you do 2-inch binding or 2 1/4?
I do 2 1/4. And then like, see, I've got the little 3/8 inch tape if you're
my.
somebody who does like the applique, you know, like the stained glass. Here's 1 1/4 if you do your binding a little bit wider.
Wow.
You can roll all your strip up here and it'll kind of pull off of there. I usually don't do that because I'm in a hurry and I don't even bother rolling it onto there. I just kind of feed it through. The only thing is it gets kind of angry sometimes at these seams depending on how well you press them or how bulky your fabric is, but usually you can kind of feed it through and it's fine. Yeah, I usually bring this to classes. It makes it go a little bit faster.
I'm going to have a new fun tool here sooner or later.
Are you really?
I have to. I just got to find one.
Yeah, I might be able to find them on eBay still. Let's see.
Simplicity.com says they're $230.
$230 for a new one.
Yeah.
I think it comes with tips now. It used to not come with the tips. Yeah, it says it, at least on the one I'm looking at, it comes with 6 different size tips. I don't see what size those are, but it says 4 single fold and 2 binding. So I'm guessing it's probably these 2 here, the 1 1/8 and 1 1/4. Yep, 1 1/4, 1 1/8, 1 inch, 3/4, 1/2, and 1/4. Which that would be incredibly small because this 3/8 one's pretty tiny.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, a pretty tiny one.
What would you use that for?
If you're gonna do like a stained glass, kind of like
Sure.
applique, yeah. Or if you want to do,
Stems
yeah,
and
little stems for
flowers
like your
and-
flowers.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't feel like that. I don't know that I've ever even used this one. I think
Could
I
you
bought
make
it.
spaghetti straps out of those?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, it takes a little bit. All right.
I didn't think that I would make any mistakes.
That's the hard part about cutting into a real quilt. It's like limited yardage.
There we go. Wow.
That's so fast. Way faster than what I expected.
That's just worth it even for your quilts.
I know.
Yeah. I'll
Do
usually.
you do all quilts with bias?
No, I don't. I know there's like a whole thing about that. I don't know. I guess I'm not maybe as hard on my quilts as maybe some other people are. They say that bias wears better. I don't know. I feel like it all wears about the same. Unless I'm going around curves, I'm not making bias.
But you can still put it through this machine, right?
Yeah. Yep, it doesn't have to be biased to go through here. No, I do all my normal bindings through here, but usually I'll like get a bunch of them and do it all at once.
So I've always for a quilt binding, I like fold it in half.
You fold,
And then I like pull it around.
Yep,
But this
and
is already.
no, this one will do that too for the,
Oh, it's a different tip.
yeah, it's just different tips.
Okay.
So when you do your quilt binding, does it take it down to the 1/2 inch?
It'll fold it in half.
Just fold it in half.
Yeah, and it comes out this way versus like the double fold that this guy does here.
Okay.
So then you got your binding. The only thing is it doesn't do the middle crease, which you don't necessarily need to have anyway.
Right.
But yeah,
Look at
you
that.
look like your mind has been blown.
That was so easy.
Yeah, that was
Well,
really fast.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure I have the tips, but not the machine.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the tips was cutting and feeding and
Yep.
bolting it to your floor,
Yeah.
basically, so you could pull against it. And that is amazing. Just amazing.
So did that little lesson blow your mind? And that's not even the surprise I wanted to show you. Stick around to the end and I'm sure I'll make you smile. So back to work I went, and I embellished my side, front, and my sleeve in the same fashion that I did when I was at home. Now it's time to sew our sleeves onto our jacket. Notice you have double pins and single pins on your sleeve. You want to make sure the single pin is matched up to the front and the back double pin is matched up to your back double pins. And of course your center pin matches up to your seam line there. So here I'm matching up all of my pin marks and then I'm pinning it into place. Right sides together. Next, at the sewing machine, you use a 1/2 inch seam allowance and sew your sleeve onto your jacket. Then you iron your seam allowance open. Look at you.
We'll see.
Yours is a little bit different.
Are you sewing your binding on all at once? Like, is she doing front and back together?
No, because she doesn't need to really, because the scallops, she'll just need to do around the neck and then a little bit of the side seams. And just
Yeah,
make
'cause
sure you
mine's are-
turn under your center front edge too. I forgot to tell you that.
Look at that. Nice job. Working on Marie.
I'm finishing up a sleeve.
Awesome. You have beautiful fabric too. I love it.
Thank you. If I just found something that got turned under by mistake.
Back at my workstation, I'm showing you how I loosened up the binding up around the collar because the next thing I want to do is sew my collar on and I don't want to catch my binding. So I pulled it apart a little bit. And here I'm showing you the rounded part of the collar in the center gets matched up to your center back and you pin it into place. And then you work your way out to each edge over to the side of your jacket and you pin it in. You can see I'm busy talking with everybody as I'm pinning. So once you have your collar pinned on, it looks like this, and then you go over to your sewing machine. And right here, I'm just tacking it into place. So I don't need a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I just want to take it along the edge and put it into place with a stitch line. So about 1/8 of an inch in. Even if you sewed it 1/4 of an inch in, you would be okay. Tara gave us a tag to put inside, and it says 2025. Next, I picked one of my Tula Pink jelly roll strips, and I cut it down to 1.5 inches wide, and here I'm pinning it along my neckline. Here I'm showing you the pinning, and noticed how my binding on each side is loose? I didn't catch it in there. Next, I wrap the binding around the raw edge of the collar and I pin it into place. At the sewing machine, I sew close to the edge and top stitch it into place. This is the view from the inside of the jacket, and this is the view from the back of your jacket, but your collar will fold over top of it. Now here I'm showing you where I pulled the binding away from the jacket, And then I took binding off of the old quilt so that I had enough to go around and finish the collar. So in this next picture, I showed that I sewed the extra binding onto this collar piece, and then I pinned it into place. And you just go around the edges just like you would if you were doing a quilt binding. And I have a video on how to bind a quilt. If you want to take a look at how I did this, it's real easy. But then you just sew it into place, and it looks like this when you're done. Now on to our last steps. With right sides together, you want to match up your side seams and your sleeve seams, and sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance down to the edge, and be sure to stop at the pen mark so that you can have an open slit on the side of your jacket. The pin mark will be marked on your pattern. And then you sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then you press it open. And we are done. The surprise is yet to come, but first let me show you our jackets. I think they turned out pretty darn cute. And I love this cute little flower pattern. Dottie on the left has buttons down the front. I put on a collar, and Marie on the right put on pockets without a collar. Okay, without further ado, here's your special surprise, and I bet I'll make you smile. That is the sweetest. Did you say hi? No? Aww. Do you like sewing with Mommy?
Yeah. Huh. Tell her what you're making. What are you making? You don't know?
A really big snake? You're making a really big snake?
Is it as a dinosaur? No. I know.
A
I know what it
cactus?
is. It's a bird. No. Okay.
Cactus?
Garden hose. No.
You gonna tell him?
An elephant.
It's an elephant.
Nope, no, it's a bag.
She's making a bag.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
I told you I'd make you smile. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.